Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of Red Sonja, the new action adventure film directed by MJ Brissett, starring Matilda Lutz as the character of Red Sonja, also starring Robert Sheehan, who you may know from the Umbrella Academy, Mortal Engines, and films of that nature, and also Wallace Day, who I'm familiar with from Batwoman, the old CW show that came out a few years ago. This film follows the adventures of Sonja, who unites a group of unlikely warriors to face against Dragan and his deadly cohorts. This I knew nothing about this movie being made. I know they tried some attempts to make a Red Sonja film. I mean, for years, you know, going all the way back to the film that came out in 1985, I believe, that starred Bridget Nielsen and also had Arnold Schwarzenegger in that film. He was Conan, but he wasn't Conan in that movie. Even though he was Conan in that movie, it was a rights issue thing. So they couldn't call him Conan, but he was Conan. But anyway, going back to that film, which for the 1980s, around that era where you had Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer, and things of that nature, you had Red Sonja come out, and Bridget Nielsen fit that role perfectly because she was a beautiful statuette woman. I mean, what, she was about 6'5". I don't know how tall Bridget Nielsen is, but or Nielsen, and she just fit that role. But the movie was what the movie was. I mean, it was 1980s. What did you expect? So for years they've been trying to get a Red Sonja film off the ground. I remember at one point Robert Rodriguez was going to make it with Rose McGowan playing Red Sonja, and I was excited about that because I mean, hey, Robert Rodriguez, you know, and Desperado and From Dusk Till Dawn and The Faculty and, you know, Grindhouse and all this here. I'm like, okay, I can see him making something like this and give his own little flair to it. I'm excited. And plus, around that time, it has been a while since we had a sword and sorcery film. And I've been craving it because I'm a big fan of that subgenre in action adventure films. And so that never came to be, and it kind of just fell to the wayside. And I remember seeing a trailer for this movie like a year ago, maybe, or the beginning part of this year. I can't remember when I saw the trailer, but it didn't grab me, and I had forgot all about it. And I'm bored scrolling through various apps and trying to find something to watch. And I stumbled upon this. Oh, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? Let me just watch this. You know, I'm all for discovering new things. Not expecting much from it. So what's it gonna hurt? A lot. It's gonna hurt a lot. This movie was horrible. This movie was awful. I will give it this. I will give it this. It's not as bad as War of the Worlds with Ice Cube. It's not that bad, because that was, I wouldn't even define that as a film. But this was just bad. You ever watched a movie or anything, a TV show, whatever? You ever watched something and wondered, like, what was the screenplay? You know, what was the direction in this movie? I will say the first 30 minutes of this movie, maybe 20. I might be too kind, but the first part of this movie, I was kind of into it. I was kind of hooked. Okay, we're getting somewhere. This is going to be better than I thought. That was the actual thought that ran across my mind. And it was immediately crushed. Immediately crushed. I mean, we got through the first 15, 20 minutes. I'll say 30 just to be nice, to say something nice about this movie. And for the first 30 minutes, I was like, okay, we're good. We're good. I mean, even if it drops, I know it's going to drop. The ball is eventually going to drop, but it shouldn't drop that far. Because, I mean, the visual effects look like the set designs and all these other elements that was involved were holding up. And for the most part, that held up. You know, the set designs and whatnot throughout the film, that held up. That's a positive. But nothing else did. Absolutely nothing. I sat there and wondered, yes, the screenplay, did it exist? Because it felt like they had good ideas. This movie had good ideas and no execution on those ideas. It's like they was in a writer's room and somebody said, hey, we should have a Cyclops in this. Okay, cool. Let's go shoot that. Well, don't you want to write it first? Set it up? No. Nah, don't worry about that. We'll fix it in post. Yeah, we should have a magic orb that just glows in the bottom of this basement area, dungeon area of this castle. Oh, cool. Let's do that. Let's go shoot that. Well, it needs to set up something later. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. We'll figure that out later on down the line. Okay. Let's have. You know what show I used to watch a lot? Hey, I used to watch Spartacus on Stars. I really like that show. Oh yeah, let's go shoot something like that. All right, cool. Well, how is it going to fit into this story? Don't worry about that. It'll all come together. Well, it never came together. They just threw stuff at the wall and to see what sticks, and nothing stuck. They just piled it all into this movie. I guess that's the frustrating part about it. Because, like I said, starting out, I wasn't expecting nothing. Absolutely nothing from this movie, but it still managed to disappoint me because it actually set up some really good elements. You know, like I said about the Cyclops. The Cyclops was a good element of the story, you know, bringing in these mythical creatures and whatnot. All right, that's fine. I can deal with that. You know, that was one of my bugaboos about that Hercules movie that starred Dwayne the Rock Johnson. That it didn't have that. It's a Hercules movie, and it was played for realism, and I'm like, why? It's Hercules. But anywho's, I want to see a sword and sandals sorcery film that actually had mythical creatures, and we did, but it was just few. And then when they do introduce, yeah, I'm spoiling it because who cares? I don't think anybody's gonna watch this movie. But and I don't recommend it. But yeah, they had the Cyclops in here. It was a setup. Now they set it up. Like I said, in the first 15, 20 minutes, they set up this Cyclops thing because you hear the villain talk about it. And so on several occasions. So now you bucked up for it. Finally, the Cyclops shows up. And he's only there for a grand total of 3 minutes. And I didn't time it, but it felt like 3 minutes. It could have been shorter than that. It was no longer than 3. And nothing. It was nothing. The thing wreaked havoc and it left. You don't see it no more. It's never mentioned no more throughout the film. This giant kaiju of a Cyclops that just went through this Coliseum and just murdered everybody and left. Nobody mentioned it no more. It was the most mind-boggling thing ever. And I didn't get it. I just, and then they had Red Sonja. Man, look, Matilda Lutz, who I only seen her in one other thing. She's been in a lot of things, but only one other thing that I can remember her in, and that was that god-awful Rings movie. That was a kind of a reboot of the, you know, that horror film Ring, The Ring and whatnot. And they did Rings, which was bad. And she was in that. And that's the only thing I remember her in. She's the lead here. She's Red Sonja. I don't know what order they shot this movie in, but obviously it was out of sequence because there are elements of this film where I can see where she is actually trying to do her best. She was actually giving a good performance, and then like the table turned. It was like she forgot all the motivation for this character. You know, it was the weirdest thing. She played like two different versions of this character, and she was the same character. Nothing happened. Nothing traumatic. Well, she went through a traumatic experience, but that was in the very beginning of the movie. And so it's weird how her acting style shifted. And I say acting style, she was giving a good performance. So I'm not prepared to say that she gave a bad performance overall. It felt like she was directed to do things a certain way, say things a certain way, and there you have it. It's really the direction here by MJ Brissett, who I haven't seen any of their work before. I know they directed Silent Hill, that Silent Hill sequel. I forgot what it's. I know it's a subtitle to it, but I can't remember. But I never watched it because it looked bad in the trailer, and I didn't want to be disappointed because I liked the first Silent Hill movie, even though a lot of people didn't like that one. But I actually enjoyed that. But the second one looked worse, and I didn't want to watch it. And that's it. I don't know anything else that they directed, but man, this was a poorly directed film. I can't even say this is a director screaming movie. That's an insult to screaming movies. It is that bad. It is really that bad. Ah, the editing was bad. The score was bad. The score takes you out of the movie. It's supposed to be dark and ominous scenes, and you have kind of a heroic score playing underneath what's going going on, and it's like, am I supposed to be happy or I don't know what's going on. It just threw me out of the mood of the movie. If that makes any sense, because I don't know what the vibe was. What's the tone of this movie? It was all over the place, and the battle scenes, they started off decent, and then at the end it tapered off. I just don't know what happened. I don't know. I don't know if it was budgetary restraints, because it seems like all of the budget went to the CG of that Cyclops, and everything else just had to stick together with duct tape and bubble gum, because the Cyclops looked good. Some of the other visual effects shots look good, but the overall look of the film was not all that good. And so I think they poured all their budget into the visual effects shots, and it didn't last long. That's why you didn't see the Cyclops anymore. But if you couldn't do it properly, I would have said just don't do it. Just don't have it in the movie, because it just took away from the movie. But the fights, yeah, the battle scenes started off good. Red Sonja looked good in the beginning, and then at the end, when she turned into the super soldier, the battles were horrible. It was so unbelievable, and not because she a woman. It was just unbelievable, the stuff that she was doing, because she isn't a mutant or nothing. She isn't a superpower being. She's just a good warrior. But they had her completely invincible, and then the way it was shot, that final battle, if you want to call it that, she was moving in slow motion. It was like it was like, okay, we're gonna shoot it in slow motion and we'll speed it up in post to make it look like you're Neo from the Matrix or something. And it just did not it didn't work. They forgot to do it. And she was just moving slow, and you're fighting three other people. If you moving that slow, you would get sliced up and stabbed and cut in half. It makes no sense what was going on in that final battle. And then the climax at the end was not satisfactory at all with the main villain. And I don't know. This was just a mess of a movie. a dumpster fire of a film, and I wasn't going to review it. I was just watching it for the joy of it all. But man, it was so I just had to talk about it with somebody. That this was not worth my time. I wasted 2 hours of my life, and it was 2 hours, 2 hours of my life that I can't get back again. My God, man, they should have just left this alone. Don't try this no more. If you're not gonna do it properly, if you're not gonna put in the money and the effort, just leave it alone. Red Sonja gets a letter grade of an F. Yeah, it is bad. It is bad. And, I know the first 15, 20 minutes, like I said, were decent. And that should have probably gave it a D minus grade. But no. The rest of the film was so bad. It was so bad. It is unredeemable. I can't even put it in words. But anyways, I would like to know: have you checked out Red Sonja? Do you even remember the 1980s film with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bridget Nelson? And what is your favorite sword and sandals film? I would like to know. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of Red Sonja. I want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.